We all love the dice, because basically to me, the Mittlere Kpz 68p, the latest Marathon premium tank, which you have to pay for because it is a Dune collaboration, is a little bit like all the stats are diced. But in the end, it kind of makes sense and it kind of works. But it's, in my opinion, definitely not going to be a tank for players which are new to the game or casual players, because this tank really doesn't excuse any mistakes from your side. My name is RagingRaptor, and today we'll have a review of the MKPC 68T. This tank has a 120mm gun on tier 8 with 400 alpha. That is pretty stonks. Adding to that, we have really good penetration, 230 on AP with good shell velocity, 300mm on heat with worse shell velocity, and 60mm as well as 515 damage, if I'm not mistaken, on HE. That is pretty good. Obviously it's no hash, but you know, shooting against something like a Scorpion G or a SU-130 PM kind of feels nice when you slap them for over 500 damage. Adding to that, we have 1.8 seconds aim time, 0.29 dispersion, which is pretty stonkers when you have the specific field modifications, as well as chocolate and your brothers in arms. But now we go to the bad things. Your DPM. Your base DPM is 1600. Gives us a reload rate of 12.12 seconds if you use stabilizer, rammer, jockey, and brothers in arms. So yeah, I am not sure, but I think if QB wants to play this tank without rammer, he really is going to hate himself, because that thing doesn't have DPM. It has an accurate gun on paper, and this is the thing. It also is accurate in the game. The main problem is to get to this accurate state, you have to wait, because the accuracy on the move on this thing is horrendous. That is the thing I have to say. Turret accuracy or turret movement, it's okay. But accuracy on the move, yeah, you don't want to shoot on the move. You can play this tank without a V-steps on city maps to try and get the HP in for better rolling in a sniper tank, but seriously, you are going to hate yourself because of how inaccurate this gun is. And adding to that, you only have 5 degrees of gun depression plus an additional 4 for hydropneumatic suspension. And the problem is, in my opinion, the hydropneumatic suspension isn't really well implemented in World of Tanks. It feels clunky, it feels very annoying to use, and you never know if you finally have all the gun depression you really need. And you can't really prepare it with something like an additional button, you know, where you just say, oh, I want to go fully down. It makes it annoying to use. At least it doesn't lose the depression when you're going in reverse, but that's the only real saving grace, because it's a gimmicky thing which is super annoying to use, and you don't really like using it usually, because it just feels like a handicap. Yes, it gives you more depression, but it also gives you depression of using this tank, because it is a gimmick which you don't need. If it would just have straight up a 9 degrees of gun depression, fine, we take those. But with this gimmick, it's annoying, because you always have to fight a little bit with the tank, like, come on, give me those 9 degrees, give me those +4. Additionally, come on, we can do it. Yes, final. And adding to that, with the suboptimal accuracy on the move and the very poor DPM, it can be frustrating to sometimes shoot with this tank, because you have to fight the gun depression, you have to fight the accuracy, and you have to fight the fact that nobody is allowed to push you. Yes, 400 alpha, great, it feels unique, and by far, I take this gun over the SDG in every conceivable way, because I get a very big aneurysm when I think about SDG. However, the thing the MKPC doesn't have is armor. And for that, we are going to hop over into our favorite tool, tanks.gg. Here, I already have it set up to compare with the Prosciutto gun, which doesn't really have good penetration. Well, it has good penetration, but there are now better ones, you know. It's still on the midfield to upper midfield. And as you can see frontally, it's all green. Yes, it has a weird shovel thing, but it only gives 5 to 20 millimeters of additional spaced armor. It's not going to hold off anything. Yes, it has 90 millimeters in the back, meaning that HESH rounds from like the KPZ 07 or the shit pack, they don't really go through, but that's it. Yes, the turret mantlet can bounce some stuff. You can see right here. For some reason, overlapping 300 millimeters of armor. But that's it. Side armor, 30 millimeters. Luckily, the upper side armor is 40 millimeters, so it's something. Rear, 20. Roof, 30. Like, there's nothing to say about this tank. So far, I didn't really had big issues with module. I did got ammo-racked once during my games. Only damage, no destruction. But yeah, it's just like, it really doesn't, like, it doesn't have armor, period. It doesn't have armor. It doesn't even matter if the enemy is shooting premium rounds or not. It doesn't have armor. You can see there is nothing changing. You can even say that with HE, you can even penetrate the side armor. This is with 45 millimeters of HE pen. That is like nothing, really. It can be penetrated with HE flat on. So yeah, you don't have armor. So surely the mobility is going to be better. Kinda. Let's, before we go to the mobility, have a look at the collaboration part of this collaboration. Because this tank is being advertised with a unique 3D style. And I have to say, unique style looks interesting for something like the Mars mode. Would have been cool for that. But for the normal gameplay loop, I don't really like it. And one thing you will notice is, as we switch between these things, do you notice how suddenly the turret becomes a lot wider? How the sides become thinner over here, because you're basically lacking this shovel part, or the shovelish part. It gets worse when we look at the side, because as from the side you can see the tank is flat, with a long and a short turret. There's a little bit of a Panzer 58 turret. This whole part in the back is completely empty. It's purely cosmetic. This part in front of here, purely cosmetic. This 3D style, in my opinion, changes the looks of the tank too much. Yes, I understand that when we go into settings, that we have in the reticle, I think, the outlining, yes, we have this, which basically allows you to simplify the looks of the tanks, right? It makes it easier to understand what is part of the damage model and what isn't part of the damage model. However, not everybody knows this, I would assume, because standard-wise it is disabled. B, for a newer player, if he sees this and suddenly shoots here and he gets no damage, he gets frustrated, you know? And that is just why? Why do you introduce such a skin for a tank to completely differentiate its looks, which completely also alters the looks of the tank but not the damage model, you know? So it's like, it's just annoying in my opinion. The style looks good. I like this futuristic style. I like the looks, and I like the Dune look. I even like the Lego model from Dune. I'm not really interested in a movie at the moment, but this is just like, why, you know? Anyway, let's let that sink in. The mobility is basically a little bit like the T-44-100. It is not fast, like top-notch speed, like 60 kph with turbo. No, it's 55 with turbo, 50 stock. HP per ton ratio of almost 19 with a turbo, totally fine. Like, the mobility is okay. It's not good, but it's okay. I just wished for it to be 55 base and 60 with turbo. To make this tank actually behave like a sniper, to get into quick positions, to move around and be more agile. Because in the end, this tank kind of does feel a little itsy bit like a mini Leopard without DPM, you know? It is, in the end, a decent sniper. And here comes my biggest gripes with this tank. Do you all remember the 122 TM? The 122 TM is actually liked by a lot of people. Yes, its gun handling isn't good. Yes, its mobility is very bad. Yes, its DPM is very, very, very bad. However, it has great penetration, it has 400 alpha, it has an accurate gun, and it has armor. And armor isn't on the weak side, it's actually very strongly armored, while also having its weak spots. So, in my opinion, I believe that if people like the 122 TM, they won't dislike the MKPC, because it feels familiar but still different. The main problem is going to be that the 122 TM is basically noob friendly, or I think it's the wrong word. It just forgives mistakes better, because this is what the KPC doesn't. You saw, it doesn't really have armor. It has only 1300 hit points, which is very, very little. This is also why I said, hey, sometimes you have to use HP. That is why I boosted HP, thanks to the modules or the field modifications. But still, 1300 is very, very little. 3 shots from a 440 alpha gun and you're dead, on average. And it makes it, you basically always have to calculate, do I want to take the risk? Add to that, the poor DPM and the poor gun handling means that brawls can become very, very, very dangerous. In the end, the MKPC is a pure sniper tank. And I have to say, I didn't have the best rounds ever in this tank. God forbid. I only had 2300 DPG in this tank over 5 games. However, I still more or less enjoyed playing it. Except for the wobbly suspension, which is annoying, and the very poor gun handling added to that. Which is... those are things which could have been easily changed in development. As already said, the tank is not bad. For me, it's a 6 out of 10. But I believe it's a tank which is not for everybody, thanks to its very poor armor, HP, and gun handling and DPM. Again, this tank doesn't sorry mistakes. If you make a mistake, you get slapped for it. You really get slapped in the face. The 122 TM, if you make a mistake, well, you have armor to rely on and to meme on, basically. This one doesn't. And still, though, it's so much better than SDG, because I hate the SDG and it's a bad tank. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about the review. Let me know in the comment section below if you're going to grind for the tank. Again, it is going to be 3,500 gold to get it if you have fully grinded out this marathon. An additional 10,000 gold if you just skip every single stage. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you around. Bye bye!